Good afternoon, and thank you for participating in today's webinar, NetSuite Year-End Close, Improving Efficiency. A little about Forbes Mazar. We are an independent member of Forbes Mazar Global, a leading global professional services network. Ranked among the largest public accounting firms in the U.S., our team members are dedicated to providing an unmatched client experience through the delivery of assurance, tax, and consulting services. As part of the firm's consulting services, Business Technology Services provides analysis, design, implementation, upgrade, training, and support services for accounting and ERP systems and sales and marketing CRM systems. Our end-to-end solutions can help clients achieve their digital transformation goals. At a glance, these are the technologies Business Technology Services supports. Today, we'll be focusing on NetSuite ERP. Our presenters today are Marcus Schuler and Randall Wilson. Marcus is a lead NetSuite consultant at Forbes Mazar with more than 8 years of experience. He specializes in system design and architecture, problem solving, and accounting processes, including debits and credits. Marcus has served as the lead implementation manager on client-side projects, demonstrating his ability to guide clients through complex implementations. Throughout his consulting career, he has worked with numerous clients across various industries. He also has strong relationships with NetSuite third-party providers such as Zone and NetGain. His focus is on helping clients achieve their desired outcomes and fully leveraging their NetSuite environments. Randall is a skilled NetSuite ERP professional with more than 5 years of experience in business development, scope development, and implementations. He has successfully supported clients across diverse industries, including nonprofit, manufacturing, hospitality, private equity, and more. Randall previously worked for Oracle NetSuite, where he honed his skills in delivering tailored solutions to help enhance operational efficiency and to help clients drive growth. Again, thank you for participating in today's webinar. Now I will turn over the presentation to Randall.
Thank you, Sarah. So just to kick things off here, learning objectives. So by the end of today's session, we'll have helped you better understand the period close process, any other related kind of month year-end tasks, some other things related to the period close process. They're going to help you automate those key tasks, which obviously automation is going to help reduce errors, streamline year-end processing, things like that. And then, of course, throughout this entire presentation, we're going to describe how NetSuite can enhance your current business processes. All right, so the agenda, already went through the introductions for Marcus and myself. First, I'm going to kind of have a broad overview of the period close process. Those of you that are familiar with NetSuite understand that it's NetSuite really simplifies that process. So we're caking in a bunch of other things around that month and year-end close, some more information. After that, we're going to cover how to automate some key tasks. This is through the use of save searches or memorized transactions and things like that. And then I'm going to kick it over to Marcus to do a live demo. And then at the end, we'll cover some Q&A. And this brings us to our first polling question. So what brings you to today's webinar? Are you a current NetSuite user looking to streamline your processes? Or are you reviewing some other ERP systems? Maybe you're on, or overall just some professional education.
Randall, what gets you excited about NetSuite to talk about it here today, or to walk through it here with some folks on the webinar? What gets you excited about NetSuite?
I would say, as it relates to today's topic, I think just how easy NetSuite makes it. I've used some other ERPs in the past, and our month or year-end close process is extremely simplified. Makes probably the demo a little more difficult because it is so quick and so easy. So we have to loop in all the other kind of side processes as well. But I would just say, yeah, it's our UI and how just easy and fast NetSuite makes what could be a complicated process.
There we go.
We do have some QuickBooks and SAP users with us today too. So I think it'll be nice for them to see how efficient the process can be. And the results are in.
Awesome. All right, got some overall professional ed that's to be expected. Current NetSuite user, awesome. And reviewing various ERP systems, awesome. Yeah, well, happy to have you all on board today. Okay. And so here's just some more info about business technology services. So over 40,000 customers of every size. So we're able to scale, from if you're small or mid-market all the way up to enterprise. And then obviously we are a Oracle NetSuite solution provider partner. So kind of working hand in hand with them, but then also I have direct experience having worked at Oracle previously. And then between me and Marcus and the rest of our team, just a tremendous amount of both industry as well as NetSuite experience. All right, NetSuite, quick overview for those who aren't already on NetSuite. It's really a suite of applications, and we refer to them as process areas. So that's whether it's your just financials or your AR, AP, fixed assets, kind of goes across the board. It deals with all your accounting, your cash management. You guys can see the list of the many suites that we have on the screen there. But it really just connects it all into one place, live. So, if somebody's logged in as one role making a transaction, it's going to update everything else throughout the system live. So you're not going to have to wait for anything. Cloud solution, no start today. So good slide to have. I'm not going to read everything off there, but yeah. So getting into it, period close process. I'm going to give you a brief kind of overview of what that period close checklist looks like, what it looks like, closing accounting periods. There's also a quick close feature I'll describe. And that's kind of it for the checklist. Like I said, our period close checklist is super simplified. So as Marcus will show you. So starting with transactions, you're really just following step by step on each task to close it. You see that go-to task there. You're going to open that up. It's going to give you instructions on what you're supposed to do to close that task. So starting with locking of AR. Then once that's complete, you'll have a status icon. It'll tell you who modified it. So good kind of audit trail there. Once you get through all those tasks, period is closed. One other feature that exists is the quick close of accounting periods. You have to make sure that there's an accounting preference that's enabled for you to be able to achieve this. One, I would say, main reason that you'd want to be able to quick close either an entire period or multiple periods at once is, say you had to go back and reopen a period to make an adjustment. This will allow you to, instead of having to go through each task step by step again, you can just quick close it and it's done. And that's the checklist. I know, pretty. Next, we're going to discuss automating key tasks. So this is your saved searches and reports. Marcus is going to go into detail with those, whether it's scheduling them, creating memorized transactions, setting reminders, and then we're going to cover some best practices with those tools as well. Saved searches, those that are familiar with saved searches probably understand that these are one of the most robust tools within NetSuite. You can do so much with them. They can be shared as a public search or it can be private just for you. You can publish this on your home dashboard, which Marcus is going to show. You can have them set to run automatically. And that's just so because as data changes, you're going to want these saved searches to populate the new data. How do these relate to year end, you might be wondering? So there's exception reporting around segments or missing values, 1099 searches, things that you're going to need to better understand the data at the end of the year. And you can schedule these searches based on data mismanagement, which again is going to allow you to better understand where values might be off or missing. And then with that as well, we have some reporting. I believe Marcus created a custom report to show budget versus actual, which is pretty common. But there are dozens that are ready to go out of the box. You can completely customize them, format them, configure them. They can be exported to PDF, Excel, however you want to, show that or share that. And yeah. And then time permitting, we'll get into memorized transactions as well. So this is things like journal entries, intercompany transactions, prepaids, amortization schedules, things that are recurring. And a couple different things you can do with these memorized transactions is you can either just create a template only, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's just going to have the template of all the information for that transaction there. You can set a reminder. So that's going to have the template created, but then also in your reminders portlet on your dashboard, it'll send you a reminder, hey, are you ready to complete this transaction? It is due. So you can quickly edit it, review it, then save it. And then you have automatic. So what that'll do is it'll automatically create that transaction for you at a defined time that you set. And next polling question. So what is your biggest challenge in the year-end closing process? Is it reducing errors, locking of accounting periods, time management, or other? I'm sure a lot of folks might have all kinds of issues, but we feel that these tend to be some of the top ones.
And we left it broad, but if anyone wants to put in the Q&A, like let us know how long your year-end close process takes. So is it a day? Is it 15 days? We've, at an accounting firm, we've seen the full range of short to long timeframes for year-end close.
Yeah, I think one thing that also helps within NetSuite is if you're obviously keeping up with your month-end close process, then by the time you go to do year-end, you're, majority of the way done. Michael says 3 days.
Nice. Not bad.
Yeah, time management seems to be the biggest one there. Well, cool. Well, as Marcus goes through this demo, hopefully we can, really convey to you folks just how simplified NetSuite makes this process. And what else do we have? All right. So with that, I will pass it over to Marcus for the demo.
Awesome. Thanks, Randall. Excited to show you guys here today a bit about what Randall just described to you, going through year-end close processes, doing monthly checklists, showing you a bit about saved searches, 1099s, and I will go ahead and share my screen here so we can get started. All right. Randall, can you see everything okay?
Sure can.
Yes,
Awesome.
and a quick reminder to the audience, you can click and drag the corners of your media player to make this a little bit bigger, smaller, whatever your preference.
Awesome. Okay, so once you log into NetSuite, you will see a page that looks like this. This is your home page in NetSuite. So for the folks that are already on NetSuite, they're used to seeing what this looks like. May not be built out in the same way or fashion, but you're used to seeing this. For folks that aren't on NetSuite, we call this your home dashboard. I'll talk about this dashboard a little bit later, utilizing some things over here such as reminders, imported statements like bank data and shortcuts, but really starting off with the month-end checklist in NetSuite. So if you go to how you get there may vary depending upon what your role is. Roles in NetSuite are assigned centers. So in this case, I'm in a controller role here on the right, which is assigned an accounting center. So as Randall said, the enabling of a quick close process in NetSuite is a preference that you have to set. So if that jumped anybody's attention, hey, we want to just lock a period without having to go through steps. If you come and navigate to accounting preferences, down here, you'll see a preference to allow for the quick close process in NetSuite. So that's where that preference is located. Next, you can navigate to your Manage Accounting Periods page in NetSuite. This is going to show you all of your accounting periods. I think it's important to note that you never are posting something to a date. You are actually posting it to a period, and this is where those periods are found. So you can see here, I have lots of prior years which have been used. I have several future years that are already preloaded here as well. So all of my periods in this demo count are created through what would be 2029 fiscal year. If I wanted to use this close multiple periods feature, the quick close process in NetSuite, I'll show you that in just a second. We'll come back to it. Maybe I wanted to set up a full calendar year. It's super easy. It is, not an intensive process. I can click the button for set up full calendar year. Hey, I need to do this for the year ending 2030. My period format is months. If you have different schedules from a fiscal calendar, you can utilize those as well. But I'm going to follow calendar months, and my fiscal calendar matches up to year end. So all I have to do here is hit save. This is going to create me all 12 of my monthly periods in 2030. It's going to create my 4 quarters in my fiscal year. So now here at the bottom, we can see all of that data now created. I didn't have to go through each and every record in order to do that. Now, if you only wanted to create maybe a quarter in your monthly segment, your monthly periods at a time, you can do that as well here at the top of create a quarter, and then you can create your base monthly periods as well. After then, as it kind of relates to close process, you get your monthly close checklist as Randall showed you. So your close checklist looks something like this. It doesn't list out, more focusing here on what it isn't, I guess. It is not a checklist to say, hey, you need to accrue for your utility expenses, or you need to do X, Y, and Z in order to close your month. It is doing really the processes within NetSuite. So we have lock AR, AP, lock all, and then you kind of go through some of your transaction bases. So in this case, as an example, I have a bill here that is dated 9/1. It is posted into September, as you can see from a posting period standpoint. So if I lock AP, I can then lock it between my subsidiaries. That's a key feature that I really like of NetSuite and our clients really like about NetSuite, is maybe you want to close certain subsidiaries before you do other processes. You can do that as well. So if you wanted to lock down processes within a single subsidiary, within all of your subsidiaries, you can do that. In this case, yes, I want to mark everything. I'll submit and lock all. So now my AP is locked for September. Right now I have an edit button on that bill. We'll see if I refresh it, if my edit button goes away. Still there, unfortunately, but that is how you would be able to lock your periods in NetSuite. If I go and I look at some of my list of bills which have been entered, you can see now, as an example, I have a whole list of prior period bills, but I don't have an edit button next to them. So my period for August is fully locked. If I wanted, I could come down to what would be my second page as here, and I look at something in July or August, and you will see that these bills as well don't have an ability for me to interact with them. So you can't change something here on this bill because it's been locked and the period is closed from an accounting process. We recently had a client come to us and say, hey, their retained earnings changed from 1 month to the next. And it was a very small change, but it still changed. And the reason that it could change was because their periods were still open. So really, from an accounting process, as Randall said, you'll be closing or should be closing your books on a end of month basis, an end of quarter basis, And that is where it will be key to manage your period. So here we have lock AR, so that's locking your invoice transactions. Locking AP would be your AP or expense transactions. And then finally, you're locking all, which would be like inclusive of journal entries. So by locking AP, it allows you to still enter journal entry, same with AR. And finally, you're doing all of these processes in order to close your period to prevent any further transactions. You've said that you've done your review process and everything is good to go. As Randall said as well, you can do the quick close process. So in this case, for September, I have locked my AP process. So you can see I have a lock icon next to AP, but my AR and my GL are still unlocked. Well, in order, if I maybe want to skip the checklist, I just want to get my periods closed so that nobody can tag transactions to it. So I can utilize my quick close feature of NetSuite. I can say that I want to lock September and all previous periods. You can't have a period open in the middle of closed periods. So I'm going to say I want to close September. It gives me a warning message to say I'm skipping the task list. It will run here for a quick second, refresh my page, and now you will see that September's period has locked icons all across the board. And if I go back to my bill record, it still has an
hey, Marcus,
icon.
Quick question. Yeah. So Justin asked, can you edit or add lines to the close checklist? I believe he's referring to that full period close checklist, all the lock AR, lock AP, all those things.
Yeah, the answer to there is no.
If you can edit or add lines to that.
Yeah, you can't edit or interact with here. Some of these features may go away if you if you turn off maybe that feature. Maybe if you turn off inventory as an example. If you turn off the feature of inventory, the review negative inventory checklist icon here may go away. But what you can't do is add things like, hey, book utility accrual to your checklist. This checklist, you cannot do that. So yeah, there is not anything that you can do here to edit or modify certain lines, but depending upon features that you turn off or on may allow you to utilize those checklist options. But in addition to that, there are third parties that work in NetSuite that integrate seamlessly. So whether it's a Blackline, a NetClose from NetGain, there's other products that you can do that you can put that Excel task list, checklist into NetSuite. You can assign owners to some of those processes, assign due dates and reviewers and just various data points to it. We see all the time that clients have an Excel task list in order to close a period. And those tools do allow you to put those processes in NetSuite, and we can help put you guys in contact with those tools. But great question. And it's, as Randall said, it's as simple as that. So, my period is now closed. There's no, when we're talking NetSuite and talking close processes, there's no formal close revenue to retained earnings. There's no close your general ledger to your subledger. There is none of those processes. It really comes down to a data and a review, and every client's different from those. So a lot of saying, hey, are we ready to close our books, involves looking at your own data to know if you can close it. Maybe you have to make sure that you have all of your payroll entries booked. Your accruals are booked. You want to analyze your spend by vendor. All of those processes kind of take us to our next section later on, which is safe searches and reporting. So we'll help look at that, but from a truly a close process in NetSuite of doing a monthly close and then leading to a yearly close, is just this manage accounting periods page. So as you are closing periods in a timely basis, it'll lead to a faster year-end process, which may allow you to do some of your 1099 reporting. So that's where I'm going to head next is, yes, great, you've done your close process, you've done your year-end reporting processes. Now you're ready to file your 1099s. 1099s in NetSuite are twofold. They are looking at data on GL accounts, which lead to transactions, and they're looking on data on vendors. So here in NetSuite, I've executed what is a saved search. So we have a search results that are pulling in data. This data is coming from different sources. So some of the data here to start my 1099 report is from our own company with some dummy information. So, acting as if I'm the company, we have some information here. And then as we go across, now I have a vendor called Forvis Mazars. I also have a vendor called Davidson Leasing. One of these vendors I've flagged as being is individual, and another one here for Davidson Leasing I've flagged is company. So that's how or why you see them displayed a little bit differently. And as we go across, now we see some of our miscellaneous 1099 form boxes. So Davidson Leasing has some expense categorized in rent versus Forvis Mazars vendor has some stuff here in what would be box 2 and box 3 and box 5. Now, the question comes like, how do we get data though into those boxes? How do we get data to populate in this search results? And so really 1099s in NetSuite start with both the vendor and the GL account. So now I'm on my Davidson Leasing vendor record, and natively out of the box, straight out of NetSuite, zero configuration needed, there's a field called 1099 eligible. It's just a checkbox, simple true false question. So that's the first step of defining 1099 reporting in NetSuite is you set up your vendors which are 1099 eligible. And then you'd also would have a field to store their tax ID number that I don't have available in my demo account here. So you can define them as being 1099 eligible. You can store the tax ID on the vendor record. And then the second half of 1099s is defining your GL accounts. What box from a 1099 process do they fall into? So when I record expenses on a vendor, what box do they get categorized as? So in this case, I have a expense account for rent expense. So therefore, I am classifying my 1099 category over here as rent. You only see this 1099 category, which again is native to a NetSuite process, when the account type is not balance sheet related, I'm going to phrase. So if you have an account type which is bank type, you're not going to see a 1099 category box show up. But since I'm looking at an account type which is expense, now I can define a 1099 category. This is not a required field because many clients and many companies, not everything is a 1099 account. So it's not a required field usually when we are setting up GL accounts, but something that you can fill in after. So now as I go back to my search results, I can edit this search and we can actually peek behind the curtain at this search results. So as we're looking here at 1099 processes, we get what's called a criteria and a results. So criteria side is, hey, kind of develop your filter or your funnel. Results are what data do you want to get back? So first, let's talk about the criteria a second. So now we see a lot of what we just looked at coming into play. We're saying, hey, go look at the 1099 eligible field on the vendor record and only show me when that's true. So now I can only see transaction results for vendors which are deemed as being 1099 eligible, and only show me transaction level information when that GL account is not none. So that way, any GL account that's hitting something that doesn't have a 1099 value defined, we really don't care about it here anymore. And then, yes, we have type and some status and what date did it occur in. But really, these two are the really big ones of what we just looked at. And then as we say, okay, what data back do we want to get for 1099s? Well, we need to know who is the payer, who was the payee. And you see a lot of fields here, such as we go down to this box 1, it's writing a custom formula into this field for you. So what it's really doing here is saying, hey, when my account miscellaneous type is box 1 rents, then give me my amount here. That's as simple as it's really doing. And if there's none, then don't do anything. So I often will even reference this search result when I'm trying to make other formulas work within NetSuite on Safe Searches. For anybody that is a programmer or understands SQL, these probably look pretty familiar to NetSuite. And I think this is also where NetSuite gets a lot of its power from a safe search standpoint. You can write formula SQL safe searches that do very complex actions instead of just returning a field value. So some of these in here you may see has just a vendor field, like an address. But a lot of the fields on this search result are truly formula fields. So yes, NetSuite can handle 1099s. You use what's called a save search to pull the data, and just save searches in general of NetSuite are a super powerful, underutilized tool.
And hey, Marcus, quick question.
Yeah.
This is coming from BJ. So he asks, how do you handle 1099 reporting if you record a payment in prepaid expenses initially?
Yeah, so prepaid, it's a good question. You're putting me on the spot. I may have to play around with it a little bit. But you are still trying to 1099 the vendor for how much you paid them. So one of the pieces over here looks at the status. So, we're not looking where a bill is open or anything. We're looking at bills which have been paid. So just because you record a bill in the current fiscal year, if it hasn't been paid, it's not going to show up in the search results. But that should still be tied to a amortization journal entry, which is then tied to an amortization schedule, which is tied to a journal entry, which is also still tied to the vendor. So my answer there is it'll still show up because of the data behind it.
Cool, thank you.
So yeah, as setting, and these are things that don't have to be completed at a go live. So for the folks that are here from QuickBooks and you're considering it, 1099s are filed once a year. We see a lot of times that clients will load their data into NetSuite and then come back and do kind of that data cleansing, data update process. Another example that I have along kind of the save search route is data management. So one of the searches that I have here, you can tell it's a search as well. If I click edit this search, you see the search word. It's a saved vendor search. You can utilize save searches in NetSuite in order to data cleansing, data review processes. So what I have done here is what's called a vendor search for those that are missing an external ID. So IDs in NetSuite are either an internal ID, which NetSuite sets and you cannot influence and nobody can influence. But records also have an external ID, which you do have the ability to assign and are usually set with an import. So for a record of a vendor record that maybe you create in the UI, you want to flag these vendors as missing an external ID, so that way you can turn around and import it as an update. So just an example here of another vendor record that you can use saved searches for. Another one that we can use, let's see if I have it up as well. You know, an example here is a weekly
I just want to make a
Go ahead.
quick note, if I could. We had a question from Kevin saying, do you have a template for this, or do you have to build it from scratch? And to answer that, there are, you know, dozens of kind of pre-built saved searches. So you can either kind of start from there and modify it as needed, or you can start from scratch. And if, you know, if some of you NetSuite folks out there are interested, need some help with that, let us know, and we can definitely hop on the call and help you with any saved searches needs. Because we could go pretty much all day about saved searches by themselves. But yeah, to answer your question, Kevin, you can start from scratch, or you can kind of build it off of an existing template and save it as a new search. Really depends on what you need for.
Yeah. Yeah, and so here's like another one. So this is a little bit different. This isn't something that I would say you're taking an action with, but it's still a saved search. Again, shows you how powerful they are. In this case, it's a cash projection. We're looking at many different transactions in the system. Some are on invoices, some are on customer payments. Some of this may be driven off of due date of transactions then. So again, just kind of a very powerful report. So that way controllers or finance managers or CFOs can look at something from a dashboard view and see what they are forecasting from a cash needs coming up. So my vendor search was more so that somebody needs to take actions with it, versus a search like this is more so displayed on a dashboard just to give insight into the business. So let's see here. So here's a little bit then of some of that dashboard, as I mentioned. Save searches also can be displayed on your dashboard. So here is an example, is that same vendor search I have, where I am now displaying it in the reminders section of my dashboard, expecting that somebody would take really corrective action on that save search. So in order to do that, see if I still have, I think I saved it. Try this again. So if I edit this search record, there's a checkbox over here on the right side that says available for reminders. That's what allows me to show this entire search results in that reminders portlet back on my dashboard. So that checkbox right here is key to the whole process. You know, if I wanted to show the search results actually listing out my data of how it's displayed here, I could do that and make it be a dashboard view. But in this case, I only want it to be on that reminders portlet, showing over here my count. Now I can click on that too, and it's going to take me directly to my search results. I could export this and then import it as a saved CSV template. And I may get a chance here to talk about templates in a second, or at least saved CSVs. But you can just see kind of the process, I would say, here from how the reminders portlet works. There's lots of other reminders as well. So I have 2 invoices that are older than 30 days and more than 50K from a transaction amount standpoint. Again, I can click on that search results. Great, I can see that both of these transactions are over that 50K limit. One of them is pretty old, one of them is much newer. I can go and view this transaction, and so in a matter of clicks, I've taken myself directly to the transaction from my homepage. Again, really handy for those that are trying to manage data, look at data. So kind of less on saved searches and more on the reporting side than of NetSuite, you can have a standard report out of the box. So this is a native budget versus actual report. I have not touched this in any sort of fashion. but comes standard directly out of NetSuite. Now, there is options here at the bottom that you can do. Maybe you want to say, hey, what is it for the quarter? So right now I'm doing it just for November to November, but maybe I want to look at this report from October through December, even though I don't have anything really for December yet. I can change my dates at the bottom and click refresh. That's great. But now if I want, from doing it this way, if I want a quarter report versus a current period report versus a current year report, that's 3 different reports that I'm looking at. And now we would ask somebody to combine them. But the answer there is that you can customize reports in NetSuite to do what you're looking for. So in this case, maybe I want to have one single report that shows me what is my current period versus budget, what is my current quarter versus budget, and what is my year-to-date versus budget. So that is a custom report. That is something the system natively isn't going to just give you, but you or we here at Forvis could help you do that. So here's an example of what I've built for the demo here today that takes this report. The native one is my starting point. I customized it. And if I go over to my edit columns, I can start to add data from my budget or from actuals, and I get an output that looks like this. So here in these first columns, I have my current period abbreviated for CP. I have my quarter amounts, and then I have my year-to-date amounts, all on one single report that you can now collapse. So if I wanted to maybe condense this and show income and my budgeted income, you can, or you can expand certain sections. Just kind of very handy from a report builder perspective. You can also customize the layout of these reports as well. And again, we can help you do that if you say that you have a custom income statement where you just want to show maybe sales and expenses and just group things maybe a little bit differently. That's where you can utilize the edit layout functionality of NetSuite. You can choose how you display some of your sections. So as an example here, the layout for income, it just says where your account type is income. That's the difference between income and other income, is really just based upon the account type that it pulls in. So some clients will say, well, I want this account in this section, but I don't want this account in this section. That's where this edit layout functionality of creating a custom income statement can be utilized. So we see that a lot. We see folks that want to customize their income statements. They want to build it in a certain fashion. If I click, I'm going to go back into here. We see different formats of income statements all the time as well. So maybe you want to do how did I do this period and compare this period to last period and compare this period to the same period last year. So you could have a custom report that is centered towards budget versus actual. And then you could also have another report that shows you just your actuals compared to prior periods. So rather than having 6 reports that do versions of what you're trying to do, you can now consolidate those reporting needs down to just 2 of them. Another thing that I really like about NetSuite from a reporting standpoint is down here, once I create a saved report, you can schedule them. So you kind of see a calendar looking icon down here or an envelope looking icon that allows me to email it. Certainly, you can always export any of this data to Excel as well. But, maybe I want to schedule this income statement to run on the 10th day of each month, and I want to send it to a group of recipients. I can utilize this report schedule process in order to accomplish that. So I can define who I want to send it to, within here, I can also define when I send it and what I want that message to look like. So I could choose Excel and send it out.
And you can also make reports public versus private. So if you're customizing a report that it's really just beneficial for your role and not everybody else needs to see it in their list of reports, you can make it private just for your eyes.
Yep. Yeah, this whole customized process of what's going on in here under customize is, I'm not going to say important, but there's tons of options that you can do as well, whether it's show activity only or zeros, or as Randall just said, who can have access to your report, whether it's employees or roles, just tons of permissions that you can go through. And so here's an example of just a native income statement. And the reason I wanted to call this out is really looking at things by subsidiary. So in NetSuite, you don't need multiple instances of NetSuite to handle multiple different companies. So for the folks that are QuickBooks, you are probably used to logging in and out of multiple QuickBooks databases in order to get your information. And then you have a reporting tool as well in order to consolidate your information. With NetSuite, we don't have to do any of that. I can post a transaction in subsidiary A or in subsidiary B, and from a reporting side of NetSuite, I can show it individually by subsidiary. I could show them together or side by side, and I can do that down here with my customization options. So in this case, I'm setting my column to be by subsidiary. Maybe I want my column to be by location instead of by subsidiary, and I want to show it everybody together. So now I get, 3 different locations from a location segment perspective in NetSuite rather than showing it by subsidiary. Maybe I only want to show it within US 1 subsidiary by location. Now you can see how that subsidiary's business breaks out. So just the overall reporting, I'm still on a native income statement here. I haven't changed it, but it's just a different view of it. And then all of these views as well can be saved. So just really easy to use reporting tool, I think. What I've also done that I think helps month end and year end accounting processes is actually build a custom tab in NetSuite for folks to use. So this is entirely customized by myself for this demo, but anybody with NetSuite can do this same piece. We can help you build it, we can help you organize it, but one of I think the drawbacks almost of NetSuite is that it's data overload. It's too much data for people to manage and look at. As an example, if I come to reports and I say new search, we hear all the time that people get overwhelmed by this page. They don't know what to even search at. 90% of the time, you're probably doing a customer search, you're doing a transaction search, or you're doing a vendor search. Those are probably the 3 pieces that people use most of the time from a search. And the rest of these are just other records that you can use. But I can't limit this page. I can't hide rows or do anything with it. But what I could do is build a ad hoc search option in here, and we could say customer search, vendor search, transaction search with pretty broad filters. So just kind of the overall process here of designing a custom center tab is what it's referred to as, with your processes, whether it's imports into NetSuite for payroll, exports back into NetSuite for maybe like vendor external ID update that we talked about. Like here, I have some of month-end reports. I also listed the native reports and my custom reports. So it's just kind of, I think of this as building a one-stop shop for all things and everything NetSuite related to help manage your day-to-day and monthly processes, which leads into managing your yearly process of closing periods, managing your data, and just data cleanliness of NetSuite in general. staying organized is a huge path to success of your close process. Don't know which one that I had that bill up for as an example. So one of the other pieces I think is probably for looking at memorization of transactions. So as Randall said, pretty much any transaction in NetSuite can be memorized. You can memorize bills, you can memorize journal entries, you can memorize even invoices. They come with different ways that you can enter these transactions. Here's an example of a leasing bill that is for that same vendor we saw in my 1099 search. I probably am going to have to pay this monthly rent monthly for whatever term of my agreement is. You know, if they don't send me an invoice, I'm still going to have to pay my rent expense. So what you can do is enter this as a memorized transaction. You can set up how and when you want to enter it. So, you know, if you go into edit mode of a bill or any record, you'll probably see memorize. Then I can go to my enter memorized transactions page in NetSuite, and I can see this same bill. Well, right now it's set for forever. You can also set a time period like you can see the second one has. And if I wanted, I could simply enter that bill. I could click here and hit submit. So if I click refresh, it's going to create that transaction for me. It said that I think the date was 10/1. Once that refreshes and I come back to it, my enter memorized transaction page will probably show an 11/1 date. So that's been entered, that's been created. I can use my global search to get back to the enter memorized transactions page. And now this same bill has a 11/1 for its next date. And the cool part as well is if I click enter and I look at transactions, now you can see some of the transactions that have gotten entered for this memorization process. So there's just lots of data that goes with it as well. Here's how you can see the fact that it's set to indefinite. If I take away that flag, I could set it for, you know, whatever term of my agreement is for. So that's just a quick little bit about memorized transactions. Sarah, Randall, how are we doing on time? Do we want to jump to Q&A questions or?
Yeah. I think Q&A is probably good. Yeah, I think we're right at the 55-minute mark. So if anybody has any questions related to everything Marcus just showed, or even, you know, if you're already a NetSuite customer or you're a QuickBooks customer currently looking to upgrade, post any questions you have. So we'll quickly just recap everything that was discussed. Whoops, just went past it. There we go.
Marcus, for the time being,
so today we pretty much.
do you mind logging off your screen share so we can show the slide? Thank you.
Yes, sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, so today we covered the period close process, so that creating and closing of accounting periods, that period close checklist, also the quick close feature. Marcus went into some depth on those saved searches and reports. So that was the 1099, as well as just utilizing saved searches in general to better manage your data. So you saw that he was customizing those searches, going through the different criteria, results, etc. And then the reporting, right? So the budget versus current quarter year, the custom reports he built, some of the functionality that goes along with the reporting, as well as that kind of center bar. That center bar that, you know, allows you to have the quick drop down. And then, sorry, I realized my camera was off. And then what else did we cover? Oh, the memorized transactions. So just, you know, more helpful ways for you all to save time, you know, clicking more and just being able to go into bills and other transactions. So yeah, so if there's any questions at all, please drop them in the Q&A and we can follow up via email. Yeah, if there's any other modules you had interest in, more on saved searches and reporting.
I think I saw a question from, let me try to find it here. Dave, I think you had a question around a module we were using. I don't know if the module you were referring to was the center tab, so that the tab that I showed a bunch of different processes. So I built that custom, but anybody with a NetSuite account can build it custom. You don't necessarily need a NetSuite resource like ourselves. Now, we would love, if you guys don't have that resource, we would love to be able to help you if that's something you're interested in. But I don't know if that's the module that you were looking at, or if there was something else, but feel free to chime in on the chat and if I didn't address that right.
Absolutely. And we are getting to the top of the hour. So if your Q4 is still in for the yes, please contact us. Yeah, please, if you have additional questions, that's one way you can alert us. We have a few minutes left here with this open, so you can drop it in the Q&A. There's also a survey at the end that you can drop in any comments or questions, and we are happy to follow up with you.
I saw one of them in the chat was around bank rules. So bank and bank reconciliation. I can try to share my screen really fast again. Didn't get to this feature from month end or kind of reconciliation processes. But if I go to, see if I can't get there, I go to banking, I can go to match bank data in NetSuite. So after you've imported bank data, is where I would say that reconciliation process runs on. I can then, if I select my GL account for my different bank accounts, you can see over here I have some sort of transactions. Now I can create these rules, but this is kind of probably a key piece where I would say third parties probably do it better than native NetSuite. But if I select a line of bank data here on the left, on the right side, I can then define what type of transaction I want to manually create. And then over here, you'll see once I do that, this make auto rule creation gets checked. And so once you create that rule, now you can edit it and do things with it a little bit. So it's a little bit hard for me to show you here in a demo environment, but to answer that question, yes, you can create cache rules from an account reconciliation process.
Excellent. Thank you for squeezing that in. And we are right at the top of the hour. So thank you to our presenters, to our audience today. And that wraps us up. And yes, this will be on demand. We will email that out as soon as it's available. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.